Good day YouTube, welcome to my channel Pottering Around with Nick, your #1 pot star. My first video I showed you how to make a beautiful pot. To make this pot we needed a lot of these little planks. All of these planks had to be identical. They are both tapered from top to bottom and they are chamfered on the edges so that when we have enough of these planks together like this, we can form the circle. In this video I'm going to show you how to make the jig that makes the joints that makes the pot. Not the other way around, because that wouldn't be allowed. I hope you enjoy. My first task is going to be to cut the base of the jig. I've used a bit of melamine which was rescued from a old bookshelf, an unwanted bookshelf, and I'm cutting it into a square. The square is 40 centimeter by 40 centimeter, and we just check all the sizes. This is the first time I've used the table saw today, so I'm just checking that it's cutting square, and that's beautiful, perfect and precise. Excellent. Our next task is to see how deep is our plane, and this plane is about 2 inches 50 centimeter. So I'm going to allow another 2 centimeter, call it another inch, and that's going to allow us enough space on the baseboard so that we can slide the plane up and down. So here I'm just measuring 70 centimeter, and I'm just going to draw a reference line there. And I'm just going to do the same on the other side, 70 centimeter and a reference line on the base of the jig. I'm measuring the distance between those reference lines, and of course we'll find 40 minus 7 minus 7 is 26. So we need a piece that fits in between there, a little bit less than 26. And I'll show you why it's going to be less than 26. I actually chose a distance of 22.5 centimeter. Now we're just setting up the fence at 22.5. And we're going to cut a piece of melamine at that size. So here we have the piece of melamine cut at 22.5 centimeter, and this is going to be the plain fence. So we have the base fence on the base of the jig on the bottom, and this piece will form the plain fence. The plane will ride up and down against this fence. On both sides. But of course the surface here is very rough, it's just chipboard. So we'll need to put some sort of a hardboard on it, and I've got some scraps of hard blackwood which we are going to stick onto here on this piece, this side, and we're going to stick it on the other side, and that's going to form a lovely hardwood fence for the plane to ride on. Our next stage here is to have a work fence which can tilt on both sides we can place the piece of wood that we want to machine on up against that work fence, ride the plane up against the plane fence, and make the piece of wood into the right shapes. We need it both sides. I'm thinking out the box here a little bit. I'm making this jig as I'm filming, so it's a little bit tricky. I'm just marking out here, I'm just measuring across the distance here, which is 225 millimeter. So we're looking for some pieces, let's call it 75 by 75. Off we go to the table saw and we'll cut those pieces. Right, here we're just setting the fence, 75 millimeter, and then we're going to cut the pieces. 75 wide, 400 millimeter long. And we'll need two of them, one for each side of the work fence. Right, back from the table saw, here we have the two pieces. They are our work fences, or they will become, where we can put the workpiece up against. We can adjust the angle so we can make a flat pot or a very vertical pot. See, sort of I'm trying to explain here that the pot is going to be very sort of wide and a very flat pot, or if you wanted to, we could adjust the plane fence parallel to the work fence, and then we'll have a vertical pot. And we've got both sides. Next stage is going to be line the fences. Now we need to line the fences, this is where the plane is going to particularly the plane fence, because the plane is going to ride up against it, and we want that surface to be hard and smooth so it can ride very easily and smoothly against the plane. The work fence as well, we want it straight and firm so that the workpiece fits up firmly against the work fence. So here I'm just cutting up some pieces of blackwood. They were scrap pieces. They're about 15 millimeter wide by the same thickness as the melamine. I'm cutting them to 400 millimeter long, and I need 4 pieces. Right, here I'm just marking up, I'm going to call it the backstop. I'm just marking it up roughly. It needs to be that high, and we've got the width, and I'm going to take it to scrap it or my table saw. My table saw was made from a scrap door. It was a wooden door thrown out by the neighbors, so I just gave it a name, Scrapador the table saw. It works beautifully well and very inexpensive to make. Right, I'm just going to make it look a bit pretty, that little backstop piece. You'll see how it fits in. Just give it a very fast plane with my handmade wooden plane. If you'd like to see how I made this wooden plane, drop a line in the comment, please, and I'll make a plane for you. I'll show you how you can do it as well. Very satisfying planing by hand. I'm not going to spend too much time on this piece because it's just a jig. Nobody really looks at your jigs, but I like it to be a little bit neater. After planing up, we're going to just quickly test fit it. I wanted the length of this backstop to be slightly less than the width of the plane fence. Here we have all the pieces together. It's not being glued, it's just dry fitted, but we can get a good idea of what's happening. The plane is going to rest on the base up against the plane fence. That's the plane fence. The workpiece is going to rest above the plane fence against the work fence. Our only problem now is we need to tilt this plane. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a piece of wood down and we are going to embed it into the base in this position. And we are just going to call it a shim if you like, which will be able to adjust the plane angle. With a thick shim it will be a steep angle. With no shim it will be at 90 degrees. So our next task is going to be to cut out this slot. Here I'm just using the router. Time for some gluing up. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue the fences onto the various pieces of melamine. The shims we don't read right now, so we'll put them on the side. I'm just going to mark up what we are going to glue to what. So that's an A and an A. We're going to glue that one to that one, so we're going to call that one a B and a B. That one to that one, so we'll call it C and C. And the last one, which is the plane fence on the left side, I'm going to call it, I thought you were going to say D, but actually I'm going to call it number 4 and number 4. Right, let's get some glue on. So here's a workpiece fence. We're just going to put some glue onto that and stick the piece on the right way around and put it into my homemade clamps. If you'd like to see how I made the homemade clamps, drop a line in the comments and I'll show you how it's done. No need for expensive woodworking clamps when you can make them all yourself. No need for too much glue. Oh, that's the right way. There we go. If you listen closely, you'll be lucky enough to hear my cat. All the pieces are in. These are the wedges which will force the clamp together. We'll put them in there and we'll just take a hammer. We'll tap them in. There's my cat. Did you see her? There we go, a couple of little taps. And that tightens it up nicely. We're just tapping these wedges in. And that's applying a lot of pressure. we'll leave it overnight to dry off. Maybe we don't need a whole night, but a couple of hours at least. Okay, so it's been a few hours, and now we're going to remove it out of the clamps. There we go. So one side released, this wedge. The other side released, that was not required. And here we go. We've stuck a nice edge onto the piece of melamine. There it is. Right, our jig's coming along quite nicely. Right, the next task is to put some slots into the workpiece fences. Here I'm just drilling some pilot holes in both the fences. I've marked them out the middle of the board. We'll clamp them to the plain fence and drill some pilot holes so we know that they will line up. I'm just going to line up first first I'm choosing the smoothest, nicest looking surface on the top, lining it up against the plain fence, and then I'll clamp it there and I'll drill some holes. I'm going to drill this, also a pilot hole. Right, so we've got our holes in the boards, pilot holes and all, but those holes are too small. What we want to do is to be able to move them around a bolt. This is 8mm, so we're going to need some holes, and this is my proudest moment. This is how we make holes. We just take a bigger drill bit and we just chew it away until we have called them slots. I'll clean them up later, I promise. This is not really how you should do it, but it works. Yeah, a real good woodworker wouldn't do it like this, wiggling the jig about, jiggling the drill, making a real mess of this. But all we need is a bit of a gap here. I think every woodworker has done it like this before. And this is why we made those holes a bit bigger, so we can put bolts through them. And these bolts is what's going to secure the workpiece fence. Some nice big round fat washers, and that's going to secure the workpiece fence to the plain fence. And allow us some adjustment.
So we've
slots. And the workpiece fence, I'm going to call it the workpiece fences. I'll take them off. This I'm going to call the plane fence because that's where the plane is going to run, on this fence. I'm going to turn it over. What we want is a washer to fit, and we want a nut to fit, and we want that to be below the surface. That one was a little bit deep. The next one will be a bit shallower. And then we just check to see if the nuts are below the surface. None of them dragged. They're below the surface. I'm going to drill the holes all the way through. So first we have to tip the washers out. Out the way. So now what we're going to do, we're going to dry fit. So that goes through there, this goes through here, this goes on top of this. I think that's the right way. We'll put that on top of that, and a screw, a bolt, and nut on top of that, and then we can tighten our nut. That works quite nicely. We can make adjustments on this fence. Tighten it down in the correct position that we desire. And this fence is now quite secure. And we can place our piece of wood that we want to machine. For example, this piece, we could place it there and we could plane it at a nice angle. So what we can see here is this allows us to make micro adjustments. If we wanted to machine a different size plank, we can change the angle this way, we can change it that way, we can make it wider, we can make it narrower. We've got a lot of adjustment available to us here. And once we have the right position, we just lock it down. Half a turn is probably quite adequate. Oh, got a full turn on that one. And this fence is now secured against the plane fence. Right, as promised, I'm going to clean up these ugly slots. We're going to clean up these ugly slots that we made in here with a very amateurish way. So I'm going to put it on the router and we are going to just by next task is going to be to fit this to here. This is going to be where the working piece of wood is going to butt up against, and it's going to be held in position. Very important that the screws are very straight, because then you can do this. I've drilled holes, I've countersunk them, and I'm going to fit in a screw just to hold it in place. Put this sliding down. Now this piece can't slide up and down, and the screws are a little bit below this surface, so if we were to plane it, it wouldn't catch the plane blade. So this piece is now mounted securely, it can't move. I'm going to take the plane, I'm going to just plane up here a little bit, and it will just take this edge off. There we go. We'll do the same on the other side. I'm just going to plane up this surface to make it sort of tilt in a little bit. There we go, now we've got a nice tilt on this piece. Let me just over here. Right, so here we are, I'm just setting up the jig. If you want to know how to jiggle a jig and set it up precisely, let me know in the comments and I'll show you how it's done. Right, so here's my first piece. Actually, it's not my first piece. You can see on the under my shirt there, I've already done a few pieces, but it's all set up nicely now. And I'm cutting the one side. I'm not sure, I guess we'll call it the right side, it might be the left side. You can see there the plane has stopped cutting. That piece is cut. I'm just checking it's flat, it's smooth, and we'll do another one. You can hear how the pitch is changing, the sound as you get near the end of it. It becomes a very sort of a high pitch, beautiful sound. And we'll do another one, because we can. So this is how I made my jig, so I can make pots. It's a fascinating process. Every one will come off this jig identical. I hope you like this video. I do apologize on this shot, the camera tripod on the left of the screen, it got a bit in the way. I'll do better next time. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. If you have any comments, put them down. beautiful, shiny, flat, straight surface. I'll try show you in slow motion here that we have a nice trapezoidal shape with 6 degrees off the vertical on either side. We'll do another one quickly. Now just wait for the very end. It's a beautiful ending. Another slow motion shot. Can't really see much better, but I think you get the idea. Well, that was a long video. Thank you very much for getting right to the end. I've showed you in this video how to make this jig so you can make this plank, so you can make a pot that looks like this. In fact, I haven't showed you yet the pot, but I will in future videos. Please like and subscribe. Say goodbye. I'm at work.
That is perfect.